Hi, everybody. My name is Riccardo. I'm a creative producer, photographer, and director. I'm here today with Illana Adamson, who is the founder of Be Better. Illana, welcome to my Espresso. How are you doing?
Good, thank you, Riccardo. Thanks for having me.
A bit late maybe on the day to have an espresso, isn't it?
I'm having a herbal tea, so perhaps I'm faking.
That's fine, that's a big cup for an espresso.
Yeah.
Good. So Illana, first of all, thank you for coming. And why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and then we can introduce the theme.
I have worked in marketing, luxury marketing for 30 years. And 17 years ago, just realised that there was no leadership really for sustainability in business. And at the time, the sort of questions were, what do we do about this green agenda? What do we do about corporate social responsibility, as it was known at the time? And the more I looked at sustainability, the less answers I got. So the more books I read, the science would supersede the book by the time I'd finished it. So I went back and studied sustainability or sustainable development at degree level. I chose to do a degree rather than a master's so I could read for 4 years on it, and still felt like I didn't know enough. And then founded Be Better. I undertook all the IEMA exams, which is the Institute of Environmental Management, so to help with audits and those sorts of things. And then founded Be Better just to try and get more traction in sustainability, really, to bring about a better world for our children to inherit, really is the ultimate goal. But how we go about that, I thought my skill set is best placed to help businesses, really, to shift that needle, but we also help individuals and communities as well. But the focus at the moment is on businesses.
Fantastic. Well, there's a lot already, which is great. Yeah, you can have a bit of espresso if you want. You're about to have your herbal tea. So the theme of the day, it's what is sustainability? This is based on a conversation that we had a few days ago, and you were telling me that not a lot of people know what is actually sustainability. So I was really intrigued to ask you, what is sustainability in your view then? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting question, and I think everyone, lots of people would answer this differently. And certainly we have a focus at the moment on carbon, and that's a really important part of sustainability. But at large, sustainability is really, if you're looking at it on a macro level, global socio-economic level, you're looking at an unfair distribution of wealth and resources and power globally, and the choices that the global north make having disproportionate negative impact on the global south. So when we're looking at that, that can, if you're looking at it from a product perspective, that can be unfairness in the supply chain. So in terms of slavery laws that have now come in, or human slavery, or even human trafficking and fashion and these sorts of industries as well. It can be all of that. It can be how the economy itself works on a global level or on a state level, and it can be the very fact that corporations, some of these multinational corporations, now they're larger than some, economies in the world. So we have this disproportionate, when we look at the world and its evolution, traditionally a country would be responsible for its citizens. Now we have corporations that up until recently were only responsible to their shareholders, and so they have a huge amount of power and lobbying potential, but actually they're only really responsible to their shareholders. That changed with a couple of years ago with the priority being, or the purpose of an organization being around the stakeholders, not just the shareholders. So that's changed the traction massively. But sustainable development is about the impact that our choices have on others, and if we look at all of those stakeholders, I'm trying to simplify this massively because it's very complex and multidisciplinary, and it changes in different regions. So what's right in the UK, for instance, might not be the same answer that you would give in Indonesia. But what we understand is that there's more power in some areas and some decisions. And though, if we look at, for instance, the carbon budget is used predominantly by the top, 10%, and that top 10% use more than 50% of the carbon budget of the world. So it's a very disproportionate representation when you're looking on a global level, even something like carbon that is in the focus at the moment. But sustainable development takes into account health and well-being, it takes into account diversity and inclusion, it takes into account those socioeconomic growth patterns, at water, access to water, how disproportionately impacted women are. So it's everything that you would consider to be fair, really. The best way I can see of describing sustainability is about what's fair, not just for right now, but what's fair for the world that future generations will inherit if we keep taking more than the planet can provide.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Thank you for clarifying this concept. Yeah, because there's a lot of it's quite fashionable to talk about sustainability these days, isn't it? So it's important to get clarity on that. So I was just curious about something about, obviously we're still during a pandemic. We are phase 2, 3, 4, I don't know, of this pandemic. So have you noticed any difference during the pandemic? Is there more attention on sustainability? Perhaps, what do you think?
Yes, definitely. There's a couple of things that have happened, not just the pandemic. I think the pandemic gave us a lens through which we were able to revalue those human necessities that make us human, and that's other people, the closeness of other people, the connectivity and the reliance on community, our responsibility in some ways around that, and also of course our reliance on nature and how distanced we are from that when we go about our 9-to-5 lives in a concrete kind of oblivion. And so when we're afforded a little bit of downtime, instantly we reconnected with the things that are intrinsically human or mammalian. The IPCC report came out during lockdown, and that IPCC report very clearly said it was code red for humanity. And that's really giving us a warning shot for how destructive our behaviour is, and we've had sort of loose language around this, not if you're a scientist or arguably a policymaker, but the language wasn't forceful enough in any of the other previous IPCC reports, but this putting it down as code red and giving us a real timeline that we have 10 years to bring about considerable change to prevent a tipping point where we'll reach above sort of 2 degrees increase in temperature that we won't be able to come back from. So right now we're in this very exciting, I think when we talk about sustainability, it can sound really boring. And I think what we need to caveat all the time is this is a really exciting once in a millennia opportunity that we have here to redress the problems that we have caused in our lifetime and bring that around. And in the same way that we were able to bring about a vaccine for the pandemic for the first time ever, when a virus is just in its infantile stages, we are in a position where we can change the negative impact of sustainability. We've got this window of opportunity that if we all pull together, we can bring about seismic change that really impacts positively future generations and ourselves.
And so why is it important to talk about sustainability? Yeah,
for me, the first rule, when people always ask what can we do, the first thing is just talk about it, because when you have these silos, the most weaponizing part of sustainability, or the most impactful activist thing you can do is talk about it, even if that's to ask questions, especially if that's to ask questions. There's been an awful lot of narrative that we've inherited that you only speak about things if you're an expert, and actually the thing that sustainability teaches you is you have to ask questions. I've been in this space for 17 years and I would still defer, and often that's the expertise, is knowing the questions to ask or when to ask the questions, actually. So we need to move away from this conversation of knowing the answers and moving into asking the questions, because it's complicated. We can talk about plastic, for instance, and we have this narrative that plastic is bad and we shouldn't have plastic and we need to eliminate all plastic. But actually, we've produced all of this plastic. We now need to clean it up and find a use for it. So these headline narratives aren't always correct.
Yeah, thank you. So what's your dream, Illana?
Probably that we bring around this change in our lifetime and feel proud of ourselves. I think a lot of the time we are on that treadmill of life, and collectively as societies, and I think we often don't take we don't feel empowered that we can make a difference. And I think sustainability as a subject seems so huge that what we do doesn't make a difference. But if we can all mobilize and understand that every choice we make has a difference, if you're buying from a brand and you stop buying from them because you disagree with their diversity policy, or you stop voting for someone, or you write to your local MP and say, climate change is important for me and my vote will be based on that, this brings about huge change. It doesn't need to be, planting 10,000 trees. It doesn't need to be, cleaning up the ocean. It doesn't need to be heroic. It needs to be a lot of collective minor actions that say this doesn't sit okay with me and my vote depends on this, whether it's my financial vote in terms of who I'll shop with, or my electoral vote. These things make a massive difference. And then of course reducing our carbon footprints and those sorts of things. But my dream would be that we're on that kind of tipping point, that we reach a snowball effect where people get really excited about the difference we're able to bring around, because we start to see these inspiring changes happening, and we want to be part of that movement, and we're very close to that.
Well, this has been fantastic, Illana. So we're coming to the end of this espresso, or this herbal tea. With I might have to rebrand my podcast now. But I totally get it. I like what you're saying about that. It's time to also change how we talk about sustainability, and just being excited as well about what we can do with for the world, and not necessarily being drawn by a lot of the negativity. There's a lot of, of course it's a difficult time, so don't take me wrong, but at the same time, having that kind of excitement about what we can do as individuals, I think is quite crucial. So I totally with you on that. So to wrap up everything, so Illana, how can people reach you?
Probably our website's the easiest one, www.better, better, and then .at.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and see you very soon.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.